Thank you all for assembling today. Good to see some of you. Good to see others of your names. Let's see. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam. Looks like Canto 10, Chapter 27, Text 7. Okay, so let me just get here. And Bihar Prabhu, when I want, I mean, can you?
You should be able to share the screen if you like.
Oh, I can do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a co-host, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Start with a few prayers here. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Chakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo. Okay. Sorry for my slow beginnings here. So we're you just finished the Govardhan Leela pastime, correct? Great. And now King Indra is showing a little contrition. So we will take it from there and share this. Okay. Here we go. Again, 10:27, verse 7. Ye mud vidhagya jagad isha maninas tvam vikshya kale bayam ashu tan madam hitvarya margam prabhajantyapasmaya iha kalanam api te nushasanam. Yea, those who matvidya, like me, agyaha, foolish persons, jagat isha, as lords of the universe, manina, falsely identifying themselves, tvam, you, viksha, seeing, kale, at time of fear, abhayam, fearless, ashu, quickly, tat, there, madam, false pride, hitva, abandoning, arya, of devotees progressing in spiritual life, margam, the path, prabhajanti, they take to fully, apasmayaha, free of pride, iha, the activity, kalanam, of the wicked, api, indeed, te, by you, anushasanam, the instruction. Just look at this. Okay. Yeah, I just noticed there were some chat things. So if anybody I don't generally look at the chat, so if anybody wants to interrupt at any point, please do. Here's a translation by Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, the translation by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Even fools like me, who proudly think themselves universal lords, quickly give up their conceit and directly take to the path of the spiritually progressive when they see you are fearless even in the face of time. Thus you punish the mischievous only to instruct them. Purport. History is filled with examples of the supreme authority breaking the conceit of foolish men. Modern world leaders proudly fight one another, placing the common people in unprecedented jeopardy. Similarly, Indra, proud of his apparently illustrious position, dared to threaten the lives of the innocent residents of Vrindavan with terrible weapons until his arrogance was curbed by the dynamic response of the Supreme Lord. Nowadays, governments in the Western countries tend to be elected democratically, and thus the mass of people become identified with the destiny of their leaders. When the proud leaders engage in violence, the people who elected them bear the brunt of such belligerent decisions. Thus, the people in the democratic nations of the world should elect Krishna-conscious leaders who will establish an administration consonant with the laws of God. If they fail to do so, their materialistic leaders, oblivious of the will of the Supreme Lord, will undoubtedly be chastised by cataclysmic events, and the people who elected such leaders, being responsible for their leaders' acts, will share in the suffering. It is ironic that in modern democracies, not only do the leaders consider themselves universal controllers, but the mass of people, considering the leaders merely their representatives, rather than the representatives of God, also consider themselves as a people to be the controllers of their nation. Thus, the chastisement mentioned in this verse has become unprecedentedly applicable to people in general in the modern world. Modern man should not simply make himself a lesson of nature by falling down from his proud position. Rather, he should submissively execute the will of the all-attractive personality of Godhead, the absolute truth, Sri Krishna, and usher in a new era of sanity, tranquility, and widespread enlightenment. The verse again, even fools like me who proudly think themselves universal lords, quickly give up their conceit and directly take to the path of the spiritually progressive when they see you are fearless even in the face of time. Thus you punish the mischievous only to instruct them. That's Indra praying to Krishna. We're back. Interesting stuff, right? As always. Seek the blessings of Purusha Prabhu and all the assembled devotees, that I might not speak any nonsense and something of value may somehow miraculously pass by my lips. Yeah. So it's interesting. It's interesting that there's a few really interesting things here. You take to the path of the spiritually progressive. Once you understand your position, once we're humbled enough, then we often, it takes something like that to take to the path of the spiritually progressive. We see you are fearless even in the face of time. You punish the mischievous only to instruct them. And the disciples of Srila Prabhupada go into a bit of a political thing here about how we are led into wars and other violent things by leaders who don't do the fighting themselves. You know, Maharaj Yudhisthira dealt with the Kurus by trying to seek peace again and again, and whenever and because his attempts kept on getting shot down, no pun intended, at that time they went to violence. And Maharaj Yudhisthira was right there on the front lines fighting the fight. It's not the case anymore. I'll get my rock and roll quote out of the way early right now, but it makes me think of the words of Bob Dylan and his stinging indictment of these things called Masters of War. He says, "You fasten all the triggers for the others to fire. Then you sit back and watch while the death count gets higher. You hide in your mansions while the young people's blood flows out of their bodies and is buried in the mud." The leaders, most of the time these days, are not concerned with the welfare of the people that they were elected to protect, but rather they want the power, they want the prestige. I'm not saying in a completely black and white way, but usually, especially in recent times, we've seen where people are only out for their own aggrandizement rather than the benefit of the people. So it's interesting also that at one time, Srila Prabhupada, he pursued a political party in ISKCON. He pursued a political party in ISKCON, and it was called, I believe, the In God We Trust Party. In God We Trust Party. And some devotees did run for local offices, mayor, I don't know, city council here and there, those kinds of things. It wasn't a theocracy. It wasn't that they were trying to dictate how people should worship, what they should worship, like that. But they were trying to purify their towns, their cities, their nations. And the only way to do that is to have purified leaders. But we don't have purified leaders, right? I remember reading about this in God We Trust Party. Their platform was not that they would force people to follow the regulative principles, but they said, we're not saying that you should follow these principles, but your leaders should follow these principles. And we can see so much of when because leaders don't follow these principles, they get into trouble time and time again. Usually it's, I guess, inappropriate sexual behavior, but it's not limited to that, So to have purified leaders who have wisdom and are guided by the Brahmanas and by Shastra, then you can do. Of course, we're in Kali Yuga now, so it's virtually impossible to have a king who is capable of being God conscious and running a nation, or like in the old days, the world. Now anybody who wants to rule the world, so we've seen these people through history, and we see them now. We see them now. Political people who want to rule the world, and it's not benevolent at all. It's for nefarious, again, self-aggrandizing reasons. Also, Indra says you punish the mischievous only to instruct them. And that's something that's really worth our remembering when bad things come our way, quote unquote, bad things come our way. Everything that happens to us is for our benefit. If we turn to Krishna, then it's all for our benefit, because he intervenes and he starts to mold the way the world treats us in our favor. But in our favor doesn't necessarily mean for a material benefit. And it might mean that too. But it will mean for our eternal benefit always, at all times. And then again, it gets back to our capability to accept that for what it is. Do we accept that as an instruction, or do we rebel against it? Do we resist it? Do we resent it and become angry at Krishna? So a lot of it really depends on our own perspective, how we choose to be able to do it. And we're so conditioned that sometimes it feels impossible to sort of change our mindset about it. But even if we're trying to change our perspective, that goes a long, long way. To cultivate the desire to want to see this as Krishna's mercy, this quote unquote terrible thing that happened to me, or these things that I want that I'm not getting, to see that as Krishna's mercy. Okay, if I'm not getting this, it means that it's better for me that I don't have this right now. Krishna is in charge of time. So it behooves us to try to see the world in that way. Krishna is fearless of time, which is a big statement, because we're all afraid of time. We're all afraid of time. We fear that thing that's going to happen. It's coming closer. Even when we're excited, we're afraid of the time. If we want that thing to happen, the thing that's going to happen a week from now, I can't wait for that. It's like I'm fearing that chunk of time that's in the way of me and the thing I want. And of course, the ultimate fear of time is the fear of death, because death is Krishna's ultimate manifestation as time. And we will each see Krishna face to face in that form. Of course, as devotees, if we give our lives to Krishna, if we want Krishna more than we want the things of this world, then we will see Krishna face to face in a different way. We'll actually see the face of God in that loving way. And we will pass through that, we will go through that passage that we call death, but it will be experienced in a far different way. We've got to have faith in death. We've got to have faith in death, that it's not the end, that it can be the beginning. At the very least, it's a transition. It's a passing of the baton from one body to another. But it can be the beginning of our return to eternity, to our eternal selves. When you can use it sort of as a barometer. As long as we are fearing death, the most common thing in the world, it reflects a shortcoming in our own faith. Because after all, if we are in love with Krishna and we want to be with Krishna, we can certainly be with Krishna right now in these very bodies. And still we know that when we leave these bodies, we will be with Krishna in our next bodies. So we can let go of that fear of death if our faith is strong enough. Of course, I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, but it's just an easy sort of barometer just to kind of say, how afraid am I to let go of these things? And we're all attached to the familiar. It's a normal thing. It's very upsetting to any kind of change is upsetting, and we don't want to let go of that which we know. Again, faith can kick in here when we remind ourselves that although right now, from the perspective of this body, I'm going into the unknown. Once I enter into that unknown, I'm going to realize that, I've known it all along. It's not really unknown. And that's sort of a beautiful reminder for us. It's not the unknown. I'm forgetting what it is right now, but it's not unknown to me. And when my eyes close permanently in this body, my eyes will open to the familiar, and it'll be very comforting. And there's that wonderful painting where Krishna is embracing his devotee when his devotee returns to him, and it'll be quite a beautiful thing. Of course, people have different ideas of heaven, and I have found it interesting in speaking to some people about what their views of heaven are, what their ideas of heaven are. Because I think in the Vedic canon, there's just a lot more detail and description of God and the spiritual world. So it leaves it sort of up for grabs in many other traditions of what it must be like. And I've spoken to several people, and it's surprising that I rarely hear anybody talk about Krishna in that reality. And I don't mean specifically the word Krishna, I mean God, They don't necessarily talk about God. They talk about it being the ultimate in material enjoyment in whatever specific sort of context that might be for them. I imagine heaven being, being able to just lounge on the beach all day and, not getting burned and, perfect day like this, or whatever, being able just to eat the best foods and, never get overweight and never get sick and all these kinds of things. And this is in more alignment with the heavenly planets, right? It is that kind of material enjoyment times 1,000, probably much more than 1,000. It's interesting that God is so often left out of that equation. As devotees, we understand that quite frankly, I fear the heavenly planets because, some of the books, you open it up and on the book, the hardcover of the book, it'll be painting of the heavenly planets, and people are flying and like all this stuff's going on. And I try not to look at it because I don't want to get sucked in. I know that I will be prone, like, oh yeah, that sounds like fun. That sounds like great enjoyment. Of course, the problem with the heavenly planets is, like the earthly planets and the house planets for that matter, they're temporary places where we still have not escaped from the fourfold miseries of birth, old age, disease, and death. It's just a lot more intense pleasure and a lot longer pleasure than we experience here. But it's worth remembering that pleasure does not bring us happiness. We see it time and again. Pleasure does not bring us happiness. Seems like a good idea on paper. You think, well, maybe it's true. In reality, it's not true. So that's why we are trying to consistently and constantly mold our way of thinking in a certain way, and that certain way is to like put Krishna in the center of my life, and it's still selfish in the beginning, certainly, and probably for a long while. It's still a selfish thing. I want to put Krishna in the center of my life. Why? Because that's how I'll really enjoy. That will be the best thing for me. And that's okay, man. That's okay. Use that stuff. That's a much more productive selfish motivation than almost any other selfish motivation for other things that you can think of. Let that be the motivation. That will eventually shift. And that selflessness, where the selfishness is over here, that selfishness will recede because that selflessness is building, and that love increases so much that the love overtakes the selfishness and gets rid of it until it's just that selfless love. And that's when you're into your higher stages of love of God, Krishna Prem. So having faith that keeping Krishna in the center is the best thing for me and will bring me ultimate pleasure, will give us that faith, that increased faith in death. I don't have to fear death because death is connected to Krishna, and I will be a part of that. So we don't get to a point where it's like, okay, death, bring it on. Come on, I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you is good, but but should I expedite this? Should I kill myself? No, of course not. Krishna gave us these bodies, and he gave us these bodies so we could serve with these bodies. So the ultimate perspective is not, I don't want to die, and it's not, I do want to die. It's, I do want to serve. And Krishna, I'll leave it up to you to dictate how that happens. I'll serve you in this body. I'll serve you in a different material body. I'll serve you in my original spiritual body. I give up my penchant to want to control it. And that's why we're here. This Ravindra Swarup Prabhu calls our journeys through the material world are God projects. We're all working on our little God projects, not projects that many of us here are trying to work on now that serve God and try to spread God consciousness, but rather put me in the center as God. And this is what I want to do. This is what I want to get done for my own happiness outside of Krishna. But we turn away, as Indra had turned away from Krishna. He thought that he was Krishna. He thought, I deserve the worship, not this hill. Why are you listening to this blue boy? He's a cowherd boy. He knows nothing. This is illusion. This is Maya. This is a great demigod is being illusioned. So what about me? If this can happen to demigods, then I better know that I am like thousands of times more susceptible to illusion. They are, still they get illusioned. So Indra is thinking in this way, and he's wrapped up in his God project. I want this worship. I want to be honored. I want this prestige. And we all go through this to various extents, and when we don't get that respect, and when we don't get that honor, we lash out at others. We don't have the power to actually create thunderbolts and make people suffer in grand ways like he did, but we can make people suffer. And people have made people suffer because they haven't gotten what they want out of life, for sure. So we're working on these God projects, and if even if we do accomplish these projects, they still ultimately result in suffering. Of course, if they don't come to fruition, if they're not successful, then there's an immediate suffering. But even when we do, there's suffering. So what Indra failed to recognize is that he is not the doer. He is not the doer. It's this common thing from Bhagavad Gita that we often talk about. He's not the doer. Krishna is the doer. And Krishna was working through Indra, the way he works through each and every one of us. Kimberly, your name just came across my eyes. I don't know if I know you or not, but Krishna is working through you with what you're doing. And I don't know what you're doing, what you do in your life. Krishna is working through you. Rich B, Krishna is working through you. Every single one of us. All we can do is desire. That's all we can do. And it's sort of absurd if you really think it through, because it's like a child. We're like children, and we want a toy for Christmas, and we get that toy for Christmas, and then we think, oh, look what I did! This doll. I made this doll. It was very interesting. I had to set up the computer, and you squeeze the doll and it speaks and it says mommy, daddy, and I did that. I didn't do that. I asked for a doll and I was given a doll, and I think I created the doll. It's sort of ridiculous. It's not sort of ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But this is the power of illusion. This is the power of Maya. So Indra understands this finally, after having been humiliated by Krishna. So what are we going to do? Are we going to wait to be humiliated, or are we going to get a head start on that? Jump in and say, I didn't make this doll. This doll was given to me, and I'm grateful that I have this doll and I can play with this doll. So there are things that are given to us that we can play with. And there are things that are given to us that we can use, talents, abilities, that we sort of, our default position is that it's so, the gift can be so natural to us. It feels so natural. It feels so like who we are, that Krishna gets left out of the equation. And it's just like, well, yeah, I can do this. If it were the case that we could do it, and we owned these gifts and everything, then we would all have 100% success rates. And we don't have 100% success rates. Michael Jordan, people say, was the best basketball player ever to play the game. Every time he took a shot, it did not go in the basket. If he had true ownership of that gift of his, why wouldn't he choose to make a basket every time he threw the ball? He would. And that goes for each and every one of us in our given professions. And outside of our professions too, our abilities in our interpersonal relationships. The list is endless. Whatever we can do, we've been given a gift from Krishna. So we do that thing with being conscious of Krishna, and we express our gratitude. And one of the best ways to express that gratitude is by using that gift in service to Krishna. So you gave me this, let me give back to you. And even if we're not necessarily using it entirely for Krishna, we can always still have the gratitude, always remembering to thank Krishna. So Indra gets the idea and glorifies Krishna as himself being fearless, reminding himself that he's punishing Indra, or he could punish Indra for Indra's benefit. That's completely valid. It's the material world is very often referred to as a prison, and it is a prison in so many ways. We're trapped. We can't get out by our own doing. We have to show Krishna that we got to get off of good behavior. Show Krishna that we've learned our lesson, and that we want him more than we want to execute our God projects, our ill-advised God projects. So in that way, it certainly is a prison, but can also be looked at as a school. This has also been talked about. It's a reform school, and we're here to reform our behavior. We come here voluntarily, after all, although I do say we're forced here. We're forced here by our own desires, you know. So we're here to learn lessons, and the nature of human beings somehow is that it takes suffering sometimes, very often, for us to get the point, for us to really receive the lesson and have the realization, oh, this is futile. And it's astonishing, you know, and I, said this before, and we all know it anyway, but it's astonishing that again and again, we see very materially successful people that have everything they want. There's nothing that they want that they wouldn't be able to get. And they not only are unhappy, many suffer from depression, many kill themselves. So that sort of reform is often necessary for us. We need that punishment, but it's a punishment from a loving parent. You're grounded for 2 weeks. You're grounded for a few million lifetimes, Krishna is saying. Sounds like a long time. It is a long time from my perspective here. It's not such a long time from the perspective of eternity. And we can expedite that. And everybody on this call is in some way attempting to do so. So I applaud everybody here who is trying. Maybe you're chanting 16 rounds. Maybe you're chanting 1 round every day. Maybe you don't chant regularly, but you go to Bhakti Center or some other temple and listen to kirtan and chanting kirtan. Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you pray to God every now and then. Whatever it is you do, you're taking that turn to Krishna and you're experimenting. Maybe it's true. Maybe if I put Krishna in the center, I will be happier. I can't put Krishna in the center fully and completely, but maybe I can do it somewhat some of the time when it's convenient for me. Great. Start there. Go from there. Some of us who have been initiated, we also we took vows to put Krishna in the center to a certain extent. How can I show Krishna I'm serious and I want him more? How can I always trying to think of how can I improve my awareness of Krishna? How can I demonstrate my love for Krishna? So it's like that. It's like that no matter where you are on the spectrum of your devotional life. Maybe you're here from a different tradition and you're just checking this out because you ran into it somehow, and it seems like it might be interesting. Certainly, execute the practices of your own faith, your own tradition. One of the things I loved about Bhakti Yoga right off the bat when I met devotees was it's not like stop what you're doing, do what I'm doing. What I'm doing is better. It's no we've been taught how to love God, and the how is the big thing. A lot of traditions teach us that God loves us, and that's certainly true. Some traditions teach that we should also love God. It's not always, the focus is not always on how to do it. That's just a wonderful process that Prabhupada has given us as far as how to do it. So we know how to love God, so we can teach you how to love God so you can love God through the mechanisms of your own tradition. And that's a great thing. So I don't know if anybody has any comments or questions that we can try to answer, but I'll just start to close. Okay, Adi, yeah, in just a second. Thanks. Today is Ratha Yatra in New York City. So we can certainly demonstrate all of these things today. We have a great opportunity. We can put Krishna in the center. We can pull the cart that carries him, or his brother, or his sister. Let's try to prepare our consciousness so that it doesn't just become a big block party, which it's really easy to do. You know, yes, it's a very social time. Yes, we see people from all over the world who sometimes come to New York for this Rath Yatra. So we'll see people that we haven't seen in a long time. Yes, connect with them, hug them, express your affection to them, talk with them, catch up with them, with Krishna in the center. So let's prepare our minds for this. I'm going here not to socialize, but that socializing will be a result of coming to honor Krishna and to bring Krishna to the world, because that's what Rath Yatra is. He's coming out of the temple to so that everybody can see him, not just for people that come to the temple, or a very minuscule amount of people. But this time, go on to Fifth Avenue, go into Washington Square Park, and let everybody see the Lord. And people who walk by and just see the form, the deity form of Krishna, or see Krishna's pure devotees, who many of whom will be in the park. Just by seeing them, they'll be benefited. They don't think about what they're seeing. They don't stop and say what's going on. They don't get a book, nothing. Just by seeing, just by walking through that environment, they're benefited. It's very, very powerful. And we sometimes take that for granted. So as you embark upon Rath Yatra today, try to remember that it's all about Krishna. It's honoring Krishna. It's glorifying Krishna. And as a result of it, we also get to hang out with people that we really love. Thank you for your time. Hare Krishna, Hare Push Prabhu, please correct me and add to whatever I've said in the proper way.
Hare Krishna, just a few words of appreciation. What comes across as your sincerity.
I don't know how
You're presenting wisdom. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's only a minute or two. Well, you spoke about loving chastisement, how Indra was engaging in some devious activity, and then he apologized, and he realized that Krishna had corrected him, and he was grateful for that correction. We heard a class a little while ago, a devotee named Keshava. He said that he was in India as a student in the grammar school, and he and his classmates were doing something devious. And so they're allowed to offer corporal punishment with the stick, you know.
Yeah.
So the students were chastised by the teacher, and then he threatened by the stick.
Mm.
But that was not a deterrent. Now the new thing was, let's keep doing it, but let's be careful not to get caught. You know, so they still wanted to do their nonsense, you know. And then the teacher raised the bar and said, all right, we're going to tell your parents. So the teacher went and told his mother. His father was traveling, and his mother said, when your father comes home, I'm going to tell him what you've been doing. So that happened. The father came home, and he said, as soon as his father heard this, he walked right up to him and slapped him in the face. Corporal, you know, from the father, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was shocked. He had never been reprimanded like that by his father before. So he said he went to his bedroom and he was crying and he fell asleep on his bed. And then he said his father came in the bedroom while he was sleeping. His father came in and started rubbing his back, and his father was weeping. And he said, as soon as he heard his father crying and he realized that he was hurting his father, he said, I never wanted to do that again. It wasn't the rod of chastisement or the slap or the whatever that stopped him that changed his desire, but the fact that he realized that I'm offending my father. You mentioned contrition. The Catholic tradition says, Lord, I'm heartily sorry for my offenses. I dread the loss of heaven and the pains of hell, but most of all, because I've offended you, my Lord, who are worthy of all my love. Most of all, because I've offended you, who are worthy of all my love. And that's why we're contrite. And so Lord Indra very beautifully is apologizing and glorifying Krishna and grateful for the correction, because he knows Krishna loves us. So wonderful. And so that leadership quality that you mentioned is available. You know, we may have the political party that Bhagavatam Prabhu was, Prabhupada encouraged him to run for the mayor of Atlanta. But whenever we're tired of this ridiculous, unqualified leadership standard, the genuine leadership is available for us. We can take shelter of an alternative universe. Beyond this world that we see with our external, there's another quality of life available. And Prabhupada said, I am there with you. I was actually hearing subtly Prabhupada's voice when he said, I will be there for you. Whenever you're giving book, whenever you're giving prasadam, whenever you're giving somebody access to devotional service, whenever you're glorifying the Lord, whenever you're repeating my instruction, following my instruction, I will be there for you. We will not be separated from that excellent quality of leadership. Prabhupada said, I am never separated from my spiritual master. So you're mentioning that these people are, you know, misled by unqualified people, but that perfect quality of leadership is available if we want it. And in 1 second, we can step out of this so-called life and society and take shelter of Krishna and Guru. Anyway, speaking too much. Oh, glory to Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the class. We found it very soothing to hear from you. Oh,
Thank
glory
you.
to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, and thank you for that wonderful story and for everything you said, really. And we can really think about that too when we do follow instructions, when we do serve in whatever way. That wow, Prabhupada is here right now as I'm doing this. It's a really nice meditation. Thank you. I know we're just a couple minutes after 8. Ananda Bihari, you want to take over?
We can, Yadunath,
Can I
wonderful
say
class. So many cool points.
Oh,
possible?
Yeah.
Christina,
Do
do
we
we
have any?
Christina?
We can take one more. We can take one more.
Oh,
and
it's
when
just
the
real
darshan
quick.
starts,
It's real quick, I promise. Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Prabhu, for your class today. I want to thank you for the reminders because I am bringing a bunch of my family to Rath Yatra today. And this is my seventh year. And it's the first time my mom and so much people are coming. And I was so worried about you know, they live the lives that they live. And I was so worried about how it would look and this and that. But I have to remember that they're just gonna get so much blessings from just being around devotees and just seeing the deities. And so thank you for that reminder. It really puts my mind where it needs to be. So thank you so much. Thank you for real.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada ki jai.
Yadunath Prabhu ki jai.
Prabhupada ki
Thank
jai.
you. Beautiful class. So
Hare
many wonderful points. I've already forgot most of them. I'll have to rewatch. But yeah, Rath Yatra is not a block party. I like that one.
Thank you, Prabhu. You're a little warbly, but I think I got what you said. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I want to take a story. Bruce, where are you? Turn the cameras on. I know you can do it. Yes, there she is.
Can one of the co-hosts adjust the settings for background music so we can hear the Govinda prayers?
It's adjusted already. It's the reception. The reception is weak. The settings
Never
are
was before.
the offended Bhima. Bhima is a devotee. He's quick to forgive.
Kandarpakoti kamaniya Vishesha Sobham Govindam Haripurusham Maham
Adi is very naughty. Okay.
Looks like we lost it.
So we look forward to seeing everybody at the parade. Put Krishna on the big cart, pull him wherever you go in life. And we look forward to dancing with Christina's family in the streets. We hope we won't freak them out. And it's nice seeing everybody. Hemangi, Rich, Jamuna Jaya. Did you like the class, Jamuna Jaya? Was it worth your jai?
It is. Yadunath is always great. It's so funny. I was just looking over old notebook of notes I took from the last time he gave class, and I was thinking, got to get Yadunath back. And Krishna heard my prayers, and there he is.
Yeah, it took me a lot of production to get him to speak.
It's worth it.
Yeah, nice. Amrita Kishori, she's dressing up for Ratha Yatra, I can tell. Papi C, are you coming for Ratha Yatra, Papi C? Good. Do you have nice sari? No? Okay. No problem. Rich Prabhu, do you have a sari? Rich, can you say at least a sentence? You haven't spoken in a long time. Unmute.
This may be the least likely of takeaways, but I just felt particularly consoled when Yadunath just said in a very simple way, it's okay, man. It's okay. Sometimes I just need that. The philosophy is great, but that felt good today. Hope you all have a great time at Ratha Yatra. I miss you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Yeah, Yadunath is very hope-giving person. He said, if you're not using it entirely for Krishna, at least be grateful. I like that one. That's my niche, you know. Okay. Bhima Prabhu, you look grave.
I have a nice sari. You didn't ask me. I have a few of them. I hear it's all the rage.
Yes, Bhima Prabhu, nice.
I'll be dancing in the fields, thinking about you guys in New York City.
Yeah. Dancing in the poop, right?
Dancing in the poop like a mushroom with legs.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go put on my best devotional clothing, put on tilak, and off to the streets to pull my Krishna wherever I go. Okay, friends, Hare Krishna. Love you all. Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.